People as resource. This is the second unit which we are going to discuss in economics. People as a resource has become the catchy tagline of the present century. Why do you think people are being considered as the most valuable assets of the present century? This point we will be discussing in this entire unit in detail. Let us move into the details. Why people are an asset? Generally, people means the nation is nothing but a group of people living together combined with some nationalistic feelings is called as nationalism, which we have seen in the rise of the nationalism movements in Europe and in all the other countries. Moving on to understand people as a resource or as an asset in a country's progress. If a country is having a healthy population and who are skilled people and who are educated people, they will grow. They will try to acquire more jobs. They will try to acquire good positions in the society. Along with that, they contribute to the country's development also. So a healthy population will automatically make the country to develop. A simple calculation can be made. If a person is getting a good amount of salary, where he comes under the bracket of IT payers, he pays income tax. If more number of people are falling in the IT payers structure, the country will receive more number of income tax. So when country receives more amount as tax, country can use that amount to develop the country. So the nation will be developed because of people's contribution. The other hand, if the people are not educated and they do not get a proper sufficient amount of money into their hands as a wages or salaries, they would not come under the category of taxpayers, where in turn government only has to provide some subsidy for them. So in this process, government will not get any extra income, but government has to invest in these people's day-to-day life by providing rice at very less cost, providing job opportunities for them, providing employment during the seasonal failures. These all steps, these are actually burden to the country. So there are two sides when we look at the people. People who are positive, contributing to the country's development, that is creating a good gross national product. People who are being liability to the country, people who are being burden to the country, because government has to invest some amount in order to make sure that they are surviving. The skills and the abilities of every individual are different and unique. If everyone identifies the skills and excel in them, definitely they can do some great wonders. If Sachin Tendulkar was asked to sing, he could not sing because his skill is not in singing. He can bat very well, he can play the game very well. If you ask someone who is very talented in singing, go and play cricket, they even don't know how to catch a ball or a bat or something. So every individual has to identify his own abilities, his own skills. The government also should identify the skills of the people commonly, and to upgrade the skills of all the people, they have to introduce certain changes in the educational system. So the government has to invest on education. Government has to make sure that people are healthy. If people are healthy, they can work positively. They can bring some good change in the society. We have seen an example. The countries of Southeast Asian countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Japan, all these countries, where the natural resources availability is very less. Let us take Japan. Japan, the availability is very less, or let us say no natural resources. But they have invested on the people, the education, the healthiness of the people. The country which suffered 2 atom bombs in 1945, which suffered in the Second World War, a great disaster, but still today, Japan stands in the global economy in the second position. where the country has really invested in the people and people are well educated. Once they are well educated and they are healthy, they started to play with the technology, they started to invent new things, they started to create new opportunities for themselves. So they started to import whatever they want as the natural resources. They import everything, but still they are the second strongest economy in the world. So in this chapter, we will be discussing in detail how a healthy and educated society can contribute to a larger section of people with an example. And why do we call them? India is a country where it has been overpopulated. This is the word which we have been hearing from many years. Yes, when a country is overpopulated, they all consume heavy amount of food because the country's population is growing and automatically the intake of the food also will increase. Intake of the food will increase, consumption of the land will increase, then we find it very difficult to find or feed the people, or we find very difficult to find a place to live, a shelter to get. All these are the negative sides of looking at population as a liability, people as a liability, as a negative effect. Moving towards the positive side, when the people are well educated, they acquire good economic positions or jobs in the society where they will be able to buy, they will be paying taxes directly and indirectly, and also they will be in a position to buy lands for whatever they require, and they will be migrating from one region to another region. Where just only feeding the population, when they do not work only, you find it very difficult to feed them. When the population is working and you are generating some amount of revenue for yourself, you never feel it's a burden or it's a difficulty for us. As you are developing, your family will be developing, and automatically it results and focuses on the development of the country also. Because the GDP increases, the IT taxpayers will increase. All these will be the positive side of a country. This we can analyze by taking an example of a story. Now, in the story, we have two different characters. One is Sakal, the other one is Vilas. Let us now see how the incidents turn in the life of Sakal and Vilas. Sakal and Vilas both stay in a village where Sakal's father, Bhutta Chaudhary, does farming. He is an agricultural farmer and his mother looks after the household chores. Bhutta Chaudhary and mother has forced Sakal to join in the village school, and as they forced, he immediately joined in the school. After joining in the school, he was very much interested in studies, so he completed his study and he was able to pursue up to the secondary certificate of education, that is up to plus 2 level. After completing his plus 2 level, his parents forced him to study the vocational course in computer science. After doing the vocational course in the computer science, he is able to achieve a job in a private firm. After achieving the job in the private firm, as Sakal was very much interested in education and very much enthusiastic to work, he learned everything very perfectly and with a lot of interest. So his zeal of interest made others also to appreciate him, and he was able to work very effectively even in the office. In this course of his journey, he found out some of the works are being repeated continuously in the office. So he discovered a software which helps the officers to make the work very easy for his office. With this creation of the software, which is very useful for the office boss was very much impressed with Sakal and immediately promoted him and even increased his salary. So now Sakal is on a pitch of raising. He is in the horizon of raising levels. Let us see what happened with Vilas. Vilas, at very young age, lost his father. Both live in the same village, and his mother used to sell fish. She used to buy fish from the nearby wholesaler, and she used to sell them in the Mandi region, means within the village some part, where she used to sell the fishes, and hardly after paying back the amount what she has taken for buying the fishes from the market people, she used to get profit of daily 20 or 30 rupees per day. So it was very difficult for them to manage the day. As the time passed on, the days go on, there was some medical difficulty for Vilas. What happened for Vilas then? Vilas was taken to a government hospital to check what happened to him. The reports have clearly stated that he has arthritis. So with this unhealthiness, he is not able to attend the school also properly. So he was a dropout of the school. After some years, his mother has expired. As he don't have any other alternative left out, he also started to sell fish in the same village like his mother, how she used to do the business. And Vilas was also earning hardly 20 or 30 rupees. This is a real picture which happens in many of the families of our country, in many villages, many lakhs of villages if I am not wrong. Many young generation people, maybe lack of health, maybe lack of opportunities, maybe lack of someone to look after them properly, are forced to fall into the vicious circle. The people like who invested on the education of the child, like for example in Sakal's education, how Bhutta Chaudhary, the father has forced the child to join in the school, to get him educated, to study him. This investment what they have done, it's not the waste of time. It is the time where they used it very effectively and very valuably. Today he is creating many software applications, he is getting promotions day by day. These all are because of the education what he received in the early days. The education started to reap its fruits after he started joining in the job, and he started to do wonders with that. When it comes to the case of Vilas, where in Sakal's case it creates a virtuous circle where he starts to grow from smaller level to the higher level and then to the higher level. But when it comes to the Vilas, it was very difficult for him to find out any other alternative, and though he was interested to do the work, his body is not supporting that to do for him because he is physically not fit to do any physical activity. He is suffering with arthritis. So, education is very important for anyone to develop. Parallelly, health also is very, very important. The health and education should be balanced, and both should be in par of excellence. Education, you have to get well educated. Health also, you should be really healthy. Then only you can manage and you can do wonders with your knowledge what you have. Then you become an asset to the country, like how the Singaporeans have done, how the Japanese people have done. They have invested in the quality of education to be changed in the country. They have upgraded the quality of education which is given in all the schools of the Singapore and Japan. The quality of education is must and mandatory. They maintain a good quality of education. And these all started to show its result after 20 years or 30 years when these children came out of the universities and they started to work. They started to do the works effectively and creatively and creating many new things, experiments, softwares, many new plans, ideas. All these started to flow in and the market has changed. This is how the investment in education and health can bring a country from an undeveloped country, a third world country, to a very developed country, or the list of the developed countries, the top it can be placed. Examples, we have live examples. Singapore in 1965, it was a dominant country by Hong Kong. After it got separated, it was now the best place to do business by the World Economic Forum report. And later we have Japan, which suffered with the atom bombs in 1945 and 50, where always we have the threat of earthquakes naturally. But still they are able to excel because they have invested in education and health of the citizens of the country. Now, the economic activities. What are the economic activities done by men and women in our society? Broadly, all the activities which are done by men and women in order to earn some economy, some kind of money, are categorized into three major categories. Those are, first we have the primary sector. In the primary we have agriculture, forest, fishing, forest or forestry, mining and quarrying. Agriculture, where 80% of the Indians still depend on agriculture. These all primary are the basic industries where any products basic starts from here. Agriculture, they start the production. Forestry, they for the places where you find many things. Fishing, you catch the fish, you need not rear the fish, you just take the fish. Mining, already the minerals are present under the layers of the earth, you are just mining them. Quarrying, breaking the large hills into small stones and carrying them. So these all are already inbuilt in the nature, we are trying to extract it from them. That's what is called the basic industry. Moving on to the second type of industry, that is a secondary sector or the secondary industries. Here manufacturing of all the basic products is known as secondary sector. Industries, factories fall under the category of secondary. For example, you want to make cloth. Cloth, you don't get it directly from the agricultural field. You get the cotton crop. The cotton crop has to be sent to the factory to get manufacturing. This manufacturing comes under the second category. Now moving on to the third category, that is the territory sector. The territory sector is the third sector where you get the final product and also you get the services for you. The third sector is also known as service sector. What comes under service sector? Trade, transport, communication, services, hospitality, restaurants, hospitals, everything, banking, real estate comes under the computers, IT sector, every industry comes under territory sector. We have three major economic activities. One is primary sector, secondary sector, territory sector. In primary sector we have agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining, quarrying, even poultry, everything comes under primary sector. Secondary, all the manufacturing things come under the secondary sector. Territory, trade, transport, communication, services, everything which is related with the service oriented comes under territory sector. We generally see people doing any of these categories of the works. We also have people who are not coming under any of these three categories. In the previous story, if you remember, Vilas and Sakal's story, Sakal's father was working in the primary sector. His father was an agricultural farmer. His mother was not placed in any of the sectors because his mother looks after the entire family and deals with all the household chores. So in this journey, she would not get any amount paid. So there is no economy getting added from her side to the country or to the family. So she will not fall under any of these three categories, either the primary, secondary or the territory. It is very difficult. Then is she not doing anything? Yes, she is doing the most valuable thing, but in the economic terms she is not doing anything. In the same story we have one more character, that is Vilas' mother. She is selling fish. She is looking after the household chores, but she is selling fish. She is able to earn something, where there she is getting paid 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees, but she is getting paid for that. That payment is calculated when we go outside and work. Whatever you do in the house does not come under the market activity. Agriculture they do, they take the product and sell in the market. They get some income. So Bhutta Chaudhary brings that money and maintains the family. So through market he gets some amount. That's why all the economic activities are called market activities. You need to market your activity. You need to earn from the market some compensation for your services. It may be physical services, it can be some educational services, whatever you do. This categorization will bring us clarity that why Bhutta Chaudhary's wife is not added in the economic activities and Vilas' mother is added in the economic activities. Because she is getting physically the money into her hand, whereas through Bhutta Chaudhary only the money comes into the house of Sakal. She is not doing any other works other than the household works. Maybe because of the traditional reasons or the cultural customs what we have in our country, most of the times men are engaged in the activities related to market, whereas women are confined to the household activities. Their duty is to clean the utensils, wash the clothes, then take care of the family, rear the children, cook food. All these activities, yes, they are painful activities, they are hardworking activities, but nowhere we get some remuneration paid for this. In her own house, she never gets paid, but her services are very valuable. Because of some traditional and cultural backgrounds what we have, we don't have that system of involving them in the market activities. But nowadays the trends are being changing. In the market activities, in the different sectors, we have the employment guaranteed. You get the compensation paid for you weekly or monthly, and you have certain labor rights through which you can proceed. You can ask if any injustice is done for you. So all these things we have seen in the Sakal's case. He invented a new software and he changed the working style in the office. He was being accompanied and he was being acknowledged with the promotion. Where the hard work is there, the recognition will be there. That all process happens when you are in the market activity only. When you are not in the market activity, this cannot take place. Moving on to understand the other side of the market. The market is again divided into two sectors. One is the organized sector. The organized sector is a sector where the employee guarantees to the employee, there are certain benefits to the employees. That is, there is a guarantee for his fixed time, there is a fixed pay for him. There are benefits like you have to work only for fixed hours, healthcare facilities will be there, insurance coverage will be there, provident fund deductions will be there, leaves will be there. He can or she can apply for the maternity leave or also child care leaves. All these are the benefits given in the organized sector, where there is a systematic procedure to be followed in the entire working style and everything. When it comes to the unorganized sector where 60% of the Indians are falling under the category of the unorganized sector, where there is no guarantee of work, where there is no fixed pay for them and there is no extra benefit given to them, and there is no guarantee of their employment at all. Most of the women come under the category of the unorganized sector only, even men also. When it comes to the working style, the education levels in India varies on a very large scale between men and women. Total India's education literacy rate is 65%, but when it compares to men and women, it's again 50% variation. Men are 50% more educated than women. So women are paid merely very less salaries because of their less education. And nowadays, everybody wants to get good positions in the organized sector. Even women are now breaking the shells and coming outside and trying to make some new changes by taking some careers like law, the lawing, taking and being a lawyer. Famous lawyers which we have seen recently on the Facebook case in Mumbai, what happened. Then now the Pepsi Ayogi, who has been the CEO of Pepsi organizations, Chadda Kochar, who has been the CEO of ICICI Banks, even for SBI we have a woman. So nowadays women are also coming out and breaking the barriers, and now they are entering into the fields of education, and even now women are paid par with the men, because now we are having men and women equally well educated and working with equal energies and capabilities. So now we can see some change. These all changes are happening only and only because of the quality of education given to them. Now let us focus on what is quality of education. Now we shall discuss about the quality of education. Where does the quality of education come when we talk about population? In order to understand that, we need to look at this chart. That is, the quality of population. When we talk about the quality of population, the quality means a good quality. We generally use the word quality to say whether it is good or bad. Population, when it has certain aspects, when it is checked through certain aspects, we say whether it is quality worth or not. Let us see what are those. First, the quality of population can be assessed by the literacy rate of the country or the population, then the health, the life expectancy of the nation, and also the employment structure, the employment opportunities available in that particular region. All these together we say the quality of population. But on the broader lines, we generally have only two basic reasons to say whether the population is quality worth or not. One is the education, literacy rate. The second is the health. The third is just a corresponding factor to this one, because if a person is healthy, automatically the life expectancy will be more. If the person is not healthy, life expectancy will come down, definitely. Now, let us first focus on literacy rate. Later in the next part, we shall discuss about the health. Moving on to understand what is a literacy rate. First of all, what is a literacy? The ability of a person to read and write and to understand what he has written is known as the literacy levels. A person who is above the age of 7 years can read and write his own name and he can understand the documents. He is known as a literate person. Who cannot read and write or understand what is written or cannot read by himself is known as an illiterate person. In India, we have the literacy rate growing from 18% in 1950-51 to 65%. It is a remarkable achievement. Let us see how the government has achieved this literacy rate in our country. Let us see here. First, in order to improve the literacy rate, the focus should be on education. We have seen in the introduction of the lesson the story of Vilas and Sakal. The story of Vilas and Sakal clearly reveals for us that how the quality of education will change the life of the people. The investment made on education by the parents will definitely yield good results once the children come out and start to work. Where in the other case of Vilas, where the parents could not afford to give a quality education, where they failed and Vilas could not do much great things in his life, ended up following his own mother's profession. Now, when we start focus on education, the Union Government of India through various steps started to implement education in order to bridge the gap between the male and the female education literacy rates. If you look at the point of ground reality, the men are educated on a very high rate when compared to women. There is a 50% of variation between men and women's education literacy rates. So the government started to focus on the educational rate of girls to be improved by getting them enrolled in the Navodaya Vidya schools. How can just an enrollment bring change? No. The government started to spend huge amount on education. 151 crores was the initial investment made by the Union government in 1950-51. That fund has been raised to 43,000 crores, 825 crores, means 43,825 crores by 2001 and 2002 budgetary census. Now, what is the GDP percentage that is being spent on education? That is 0.64% earlier when it was 151 crores, and now the number went on to 3.98, means nearly 4%, that is by 43,825 crores in the total GDP of our country. So with these efforts made by the government, the 18% literacy rate in 1950-51 has went on up to 65% of the literacy rate. And moving on further to understand, the government also started to focus and to bridge the gap through the 10th 5-year plans, and with an initiative of the union government, state government together, by making the primary education compulsory and accessible to all the people, the midday meal programs, all these together, they have increased the number of the primary schools, like 5 lakh schools are being established. The sad point is, the quality of education has been come down because they are being diluted because of the mutual misunderstandings between the states and the union governments, and the lack of the teachers, slow implementation of the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan program in the areas, percentage of the teachers and the students ratio, where some schools where there are no teachers. These all are been some of the negative aspects which diluted the program without taking its full complete flight. So moving on to further, the government started to check what are the lapses that are being made in the 10th 5-year plan. When the government started to focus, they identified that programs are being getting diluted, so they strictly implemented the midday meal program, so that the parents, those who are not able to feed their children, at least with that motto they would try to send the children to school. Yes, really this is the real picture of our country. Parents are struggling to feed their children. 23 million people in our country are suffering with malnutrition, children below the age of 20. So it is really a good step taken by the government by implementing the midday meal program, and now they are focusing on to bridge the gap of the lack of teachers, the efficient teachers also, to a very large scale by recruiting the teachers on a very large scale. If you look at the statistics given for us, you can understand the number of teachers recruited are also increasing year by year, so the quality teachers can come and the quality education can be delivered. So in order to achieve something in your life, the investment that has to be made in the education is really very important. The countries or the parents who are well educated, definitely they invest more on the children's education, wherein on the long run in future they get it returned back on a very high rate. At the same time, they can lead a very happy and a settled life, which we have seen in the example of Sakal. Now moving on to understand the other important aspect of the quality of population. What makes the population very fit and fine or qualitative? One is education, which we have discussed just now. The second important factor is health. Health, very simple logic to understand. Any firm, any organization or any industry would not like to hire a person who is not healthy, who is not fit and who is not fine, because the unhealthy person cannot do the work efficiently when compared to a healthy person. So any firm, any organization needs healthy people. That's the reason why even the country's topmost priority is to have healthy population. In this case, I would like to remind an example where Hitler used to consider the physically handicapped people also as a burden to the country. Why? Because they cannot do the quality work when it comes to the comparison with the other categories of people. That is the reason why he killed his own 70,000 Germans also, because he thought they would be a burden to the German economy. We do not go to such an extreme extent, but still we need to remember that a healthy person can do the work very efficiently. The qualitative work can be done. A good quality of work can be made. And that is the reason why a healthy person will definitely be an asset to an organization and the country, whereas not being a liability to the country or to the organization for what he works. And moving on, in our country, with this initiative and with the top priority of the country to implement that country to be very healthy and do the effective work, and efficient people are required. In this process of building this one, the country started to invest more and more in the health sector also. Country started to focus on the health sector from the first health sector first 5-year plan to the latest 12th 5-year plan. The concentration of the government towards the health sector can be visual or seen with the statistics like the infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate means the age, infant means small children, mortality rate the days to survive or the years to survive. The infant mortality rate can be calculated from the deaths of the children who are just born to 5 years of age, where this is a very pathetic situation where the young babies die of lack of medical facilities, malnutrition, or whatever may be the reason. So that rate has come down from 147 to 75 with the efforts made by the government, and they have also increased the primary healthcare centers, secondary healthcare centers, and even in the district hospitals and everything. The number has been raised from 725 centers in 1950-51 to 1,63,181 centers in 2000-2001 statistics. So this clearly reveals for us that the government started to focus on the health of the individuals of the country. A healthy nation will definitely yield good results. The healthy population is highly required of this time. The quality education and healthy population are the two main determining factors for the country whether to develop, whether a country will be able to achieve its targets or not. That is clearly visual, and even government is concentrating on this. The other side of the health sectors, even today we find it very difficult to find a doctor. We don't have a doctor for every 10 members. For every 1,000 we just have only 5 doctors, and the number is really very terrifying for all of us. The number of doctors available in our country in par with the population is not at all matching, and that is the reason why there are still many people who don't get quality of health treatments available for them. Government has to ensure certain steps in order to increase the medical colleges and all, so that the doctors availability as per the requirement of the population would be met. Now moving on to understand the unemployment condition in our country. What is unemployment? I have written it very nicely, you can understand here. People, those who are willing to work, are finding very difficult to find work. So that willingness is there from the people's side, but there is a large gap. That gap of the bridge has to be covered with work. That work is not able to be found by the people. This condition of people not able to find any work is known as unemployment. There are various types of unemployments, but first of all, the basic meaning of unemployment is people are not able to find out exactly any particular job as per their abilities and capabilities is known as unemployment. This condition is really very problematic for any country. Why it is problematic for any country? Because if we have more number of unemployed people, they start to be a extra burden on the people those who are working. Like for example, in a family we have 5 members. We have only 3 members working, the rest of the 2 are not working. These 2 members also started to depend on the rest of the 3 members' income, and this started to reduce the quality of living of the full 5 members of the family. It also affects the social life, and it also wastes the skills of the people those who are not employed. If in every family we have this kind of unemployed people, this slowly slows down the income of the country because the economy starts to get affected. So the unemployment will have direct influence on the development of the country. Let us now find out the details. Who are the actual people to work? In India we have the categories of 1, 2 and 3 categories the entire population is divided into. First category is 6 to 14 years, that is the children group. The second category is 15 to 59 years, that is the adult group. The third category is 60 to 75 years and above, that group is called the aged group. So which category of people are actually eligible to work? Yes, Now moving on to understand the actual workforce age group is 15 to 59 is the right age where people can start to work, because why I mentioned 15 is in some villages as soon as they finish their class 10 they started to work. So from 15 to 59 is the right age for any person to work to his full extent. So this adult age is also known as work age or work force. So this 15 to 59 age is also known as work age group or workforce group. Now moving on to understand how is the work in our country. In our country we have two different types of sectors. One is the work where people are getting educated and finding job, as we have seen in the example of the story where Sakal finds a job, where we have also seen in the same Sakal's family also in the text as it is mentioned that they have one of their relatives who is not willing to work, who could not find any work. So in India we have many people who are either seasonally unemployed or disguised unemployed or underemployed. What is seasonal unemployment? What is disguised unemployment? And what is the underemployment? These all factors we shall discuss now in detail. Now, moving on to understand the unemployment, the gap between the people willing to work and could not find work. As I mentioned earlier, there are two major types of unemployments. One is the seasonal unemployment, the other one is the disguised unemployment. We also have the other category of unemployment which doesn't appear for us to be unemployed, but they are really unemployed. Let us find out these three types in detail now. Seasonal unemployment. In the India where we have most of the families depending on agriculture, agriculture is starting in the rainy season and goes on, and again we get the second crop, but during certain period we don't put the crop on the soil. So that gap between the first crop and the second crop tends to have a seasonal gap. During this seasonal gap, the people like agricultural labor, farm laborers who are working on the fields could not find any other job. So that leads to seasonal unemployment. Maybe because of the lack of the rains also, sometimes people fail to put the crop in time, where that also pushes the people to fall into the category of seasonal unemployment. And in India we have monsoons are just the gamble. We don't know when the exact monsoon step in. We believe the monsoon should come in the right time, then the process of the cropping takes place. So whenever the monsoon gets delayed due to some other global economic factors, that start to show impact on the lives of the agricultural and the farm laborers. So this situation is called as seasonal unemployment. They are unemployed for a particular season or a particular time period is known as seasonal unemployment. And moving on to understand disguised unemployment. Disguised means they are capable to do much larger than that, but they could not do it. Like for example, in a family of 5 members, they have a small plot of land, they do agriculture in that, which is worth of only 3 people to do work on that. But still, as there is no other viable alternative available for them, they started to move and work in the same agricultural field along with the other 3. So now that's 3 plus these 2, total 5 members are working in the same field. Are they really unemployed? No, they are not unemployed, but they are disguised unemployed. The 2 people, even if they don't work in the same plot of agricultural field, the agricultural output would be the same, and they are not adding anything to the family. So here these 2 people are actually extra to the work. If these 2 people work in any other field and get an extra income for the family, that would be an adding advantage for the family and growth in the economic rate of the family. But here you don't find that one. Because generally in villages you don't find any viable other than the agricultural work. You don't find much of the opportunities for anyone to work. This type of unemployment is known as disguised unemployment. We have seasonal unemployment, we have disguised unemployment. But I also mentioned for you the other category of unemployment, that is underemployment. Unemployment, underemployment. Underemployed, he is working but not to his full potential. I'll tell you an example. We generally see poverty in many of our village families. Even in cities also we find poor people. A poor person, though he is well qualified and well educated, he cannot stay at home for a long time. Looking at the panic situation of the family, the day by day, the days cross, people started to lose their confidence levels. People started to get worried about the family situation, because sitting at home idle and looking at the situation, not getting even a single penny, these all things start to fill up his brain and makes him to get worried and depressed. Instead of that, they tend to go and work any work, whatever that is available for them, they start to work, irrespective of their qualification, capacity, skills and all. When they start to work like this, they may be a graduate, but he may be working in a cycle shop or a motor mechanic shop or somewhere else. He may be getting some income. So this some income does not add this particular person into the unemployed category. But really, is he employed? No, he is not employed to his full potential. So he is not an employed person. But in our country, we don't get unemployment status so high in number as it is shown in the developed countries like US or UK. Because here, we don't consider these people as unemployed people. These people are actually underemployed people. The underemployment makes them to cover up or shade up them as they are employed. But to the full potential, if he is capable of earning 10,000 by working as a teacher, but he is working as a normal mechanic in a shed, how can he meet the requirements of his family? He just to pass the days, he started to work. This kind of situations are n in number in our country. And this is the understanding of underemployment. So we have seasonal unemployment, disguised unemployment and underemployment also found in our country. Nowadays, the trends are being changing. The number of people, the disguised unemployed people associated with the agricultural sector now are not showing much interest to go towards agriculture. Maybe because the growing of the awareness of the people, or because of the coming up of the new kind of industries like biotechnical industries, computer IT industry sector. So all these sectors started to motivate the people to move from the primary sector to the secondary, the manufacturing sector, and third, the tertiary sector. So the percentage of people now depending on agriculture, especially the disguised unemployed people, are slowly flying towards the secondary and the tertiary sectors. This trend has been a good sign for countries like ours, where earlier we used to have 80 to 85% dependent on agriculture. Now the number has come to 70 and 30 ratio, where 30% of people are depending on the secondary and the tertiary sectors. Now further, we can have a small story in order to wind up the understanding of the entire lesson, and how an educated person can definitely be an asset to a village or any city. Let us see now. A village where many number of people used to live, many families used to live, started to live. The people are not much interested in education. They used to stitch their own clothes. They used to teach their own children how to do agriculture and how to live on. As the time passed on, one of the family sent their child especially the boy, to the nearby college and make him to get educated. He got educated very well and he learned in agriculture. He became an agro engineering. He did the graduation in agro engineering and he came back. So once he returned back, he started to study the agricultural aspects in a scientific way, which he got trained, and now he started to bring certain new changes in the way that has to be handled, and he discovered a new plow which yielded a good results in the production of the wheat. So in the same village, earlier there were no opportunities much to be discussed, but now we got a post of an agro engineer coming and staying there and giving the ideas and the plans for the villages. So in the village we got the post called agro engineer. Next, the second one, the entire village is now looking at the agro engineer. All the other families also got impressed and want their children also to study. They had a panchayat meeting and raised the issue in the panchayat that they will all support to have a school. So they need a school, and they all promised that they will definitely send their children to school to get educated. So now we got in the village school. School stands for education. Next, if school is there, students are there. What is required now? Yes, teacher. Teacher is required. So now the panchayat appointed a new teacher. Now the village got a new look, an agro engineer, a school, students, teacher. Along with this, the families now started to look at the other viable opportunities. Like one of the family made their girl child to get trained in tailoring. So earlier, all the members of the family or all the families used to stitch their own clothes. Now, after this girl started to stitch the clothes for the family, which started to appear very nice and giving a decent look, now all the other families also started to come and make them their clothes also to stitch. Slowly the days passed, all the families in the village started to come and get their clothes stitched with this girl. Now a new job again is created, that is tailoring. The tailoring has become a new opportunity now. So the quality of education, the awareness to the people can definitely create more and more assets. Earlier in the village, there were no much opportunities for the people, but now they have an agro engineer, they have a school, they have a teacher, they have education going up, then they have tailoring. Tomorrow we get hospitals in the school, then slowly the internet communication network system. So everything comes step by step. So every village, when the proper utilization of the assets has been made, like quality education, will definitely bring good changes. So that is the reason why people as a resource, they are the most valuable assets which has to be cherished properly, which has to be trained properly. If they are trained properly, they know how the natural resources can be utilized very effectively and very meaningfully. You have natural resources, let us take land, minerals, people. Land cannot be utilized by itself. Minerals, we don't know where exactly the mineral is, but we know the minerals are found in this region. But people, when the people are trained and cherished, they know how to utilize the land very effectively, how to make wonders with the land, and also would know to find out the scientifically where exactly the minerals are there and how the mining has to be done, what is the machinery that has to be used. These all things can be managed only if you know or if you have the quality, healthy people. So people are no more a liability for the country as in the olden days, but now people are the asset if they are provided good education, and if they are healthy, definitely they will be the most valuable resource of the present century. That is the reason why people are rightly known as human resource.